Hola friends, welcome to the Medicine, Marriage, and Money YouTube channel, the only channel for physicians who want to achieve marital interdependence and financial freedom together. On this channel, you will learn how to show up as the best version of yourself so that you can love intentionally and build a more financially savvy relationship with your spouse. And I am your host, a physician mom, a doctor's wife, a Gottman leader, a certified life and marriage coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Welcome. Bienvenidos. So today I wanted to come in here and talk to you guys for a little bit, as I have been silent for the last couple weeks, as I've been going through some emotional things at work, as the world has been going through some extremely emotionally hard times. And would you believe it or not, I have actually had this on my calendar for a year. I am currently at a mindfulness retreat. And we have been instructed to put our phones away, put our computers away, put anything electronic away, and just be mindful. And I can tell you, for the last 2 days, I have been doing mostly that, besides a little bit of FaceTiming with my kids, checking in with my hubby, once or twice a day, responding to messages, and occasionally going on to the news, social media, just to see what's going on in the world. But other than that, I've been pretty mindful. And I can say it's a significant difference. For those of you who are like me, we live with our cell phone in our hand and we're checking it thousands of times a day. You'd be surprised. And so it's been a reset here. And I just want to recognize the weight of the world right now and how things are hard for everybody. And I couldn't make sense of it. I still can't make sense of it. I cannot make sense of the killings going on in Israel and Palestine and Gaza, Hamas, all of it. It's unexplainable. And I come on here because the first day of my mindfulness retreat, which was yesterday, we talked about grief. And we actually, the organizer of this mindfulness retreat, she's actually from Iran. She grew up in a high rise in Tehran, Tehran, I think I'm saying that correctly. And she moved over here later in life. And so she's born, raised Persian. She has a lot to say about what's going on with the government. And two of my other friends on this retreat have friends and family who live in Israel. And one of them who was recently recruited to go back to the army. And we all, at this retreat, all three of my two friends who are Jewish and have friends and family in Israel, the conductor of the retreat, the organizer of the retreat, who is Persian, all of us have very dear friends who are Muslim, and some who are Palestinian. And none of us can make sense of what's going on. Some of our friends grew up in Israel, have been married to a Palestinian, and are still posting on social media and coming out that they cannot make sense of what's going on. I have been fortunate to have grown up in a family, a mixed cultural and spiritual family. I find myself very fortunate because I can see two different religious, spiritual backgrounds, both of my parents, live together in peace and in harmony. They've never fought about their differences. There's never been an argument. There's just never been a question, right, about who is right and who is wrong. Neither of us, like none of us here at this retreat, my parents, my family, none of us believe in violence and killing and rape, right? This is kind of like one of those universal things. And if it's hard for us or for my friends, especially who have got both are married to somebody from like the opposite side, to even figure out what's making sense, I can't come on here. And I know a lot of times people expect us as public speakers, who has podcasts, who have a social media account, to come out and take a stand. And I support all of my friends. I support the emotions, the grief, the feelings. We spent a whole day talking about this on day one, grieving about not only what's going on in the world, grieving about what's going on inside of our relationships, grieving about the patients we have lost, grieving about anything. And grief is a universal emotion. It's a universal feeling. It doesn't matter what side of the border you're on. It doesn't matter what spiritual system you hold, you experience grief. And even if you're trying to support somebody who you think you're on their side, they may still misinterpret what you have to say. And I just think this is important for us to all recognize in all of our relationships, in your marriages, in your relationships with your friends, with your colleagues, that this is not a time to divide. This is not a time for you to decide that this is black and white. This is not a time for polarization. If we can see and understand, I'm coming from this, I'm in the most magical place, one of the most magical places on earth. I'm coming here, not understanding either side. I've been reading all sorts of media, news, listening to my friends from Israel, from Palestine, my Muslim friends, my Jewish friends. Nobody feels safe to actually, or the ones who I'm surrounding myself with this weekend on this mindfulness retreat, feel safe enough to come out and say something. Some of these people are business owners. They run their own practices without somebody else fact checking it or just checking it for language. And I just want you to know, no matter what you're going to say or how you're going to feel, somebody is going to misinterpret that. It happened to me when I posted how devastated I was with what happened at the festival, right? With the rapes and the killings and how deeply hurt I was. And then I also have that part of me that I have to turn it off sometimes. Sometimes I can't watch the news all the time. Sometimes I have to go to the hospital and focus on my patients. Sometimes I have to be at home and I have to focus on my kids. Same thing with myself and my husband. And I encourage you all to do the same. And so to me, I call that putting on my rose-colored glasses. Whether that was the right terminology or not, it's still out there. I still used it. And somebody unfollowed me because of that. Somebody was disgusted with me because of that. And I don't pretend to know how they feel and what they're thinking. And although my heart sank when she told me she was disgusted, and I was actually trying to support her in her feelings, and not her, but the whole of Israel, there's only so much we can do before we become misinterpreted. So the reason I wanted to come on here and say this is because I believe in your relationships, in marriage, you will never truly know what the person is fully experiencing, just like life right now, just like we can't even make sense of what's going on on the other side of the world right now. Sometimes in our spouses, in our partners, in our children's head, we can't even begin to know. We cannot even pretend to begin to know. So what can you do? For me, and what I recommend for everybody is start looking inside of yourself. What can I do right now to make a difference in the world? What can I do right now? What can I do today to spread more joy and spread less hate? What can I do this week that will touch somebody else's life in a more positive way? And I always recommend starting at home, starting with yourself, with your children, with your spouse. Because if you can't do it at home with yourself, it's hard to fully be present and do it with other people and other relationships. That foundation, you need that strong foundation in your life, especially with yourself. And I would like to share this word when we were talking about grief at the mindfulness retreat I'm on day 1. My dear friend and mentor and coach taught us about this word they have in Hawaii, which is where we are on Oahu. The word is kaumaha. 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 And that means grief in Hawaiian. And it literally translates, kaumaha, it literally translates to something heavy will be lifted. So when you think of grief and thinking about of the weight of the world, trying to figure things out, trying to support other friends who are in grief, who may have different spiritual backgrounds than you, maybe different countries. Can we realize, how does this make a difference? How magical is this term, kaumaha, grief? Something heavy will be lifted. And it's nothing you have to do. It's nothing that person has to do. Grief will flow through your body and it will be lifted. I'm not saying that it's going to be time. I'm not saying that it's going to be something else. And just knowing. And can you invite this sort of bittersweet feeling into your life and allow the grief. Allow the grief maybe inside of you and allow others. Like I totally allowed, even despite that heart sink when one of my previous followers said, I'm disappointed in you. This deserves an unfollow. Go enjoy your rose-colored glasses, Kate. I appreciate that. I respect that. She is in such deep grief right now, fear for her kids, for herself, that's where she's coming from. How can I get mad at that? So I just wanted to kind of talk about this allowing. If your spouse is going through something you don't understand, can you use this? You may be personally grieving something. The weight of the world right now and the weight inside of yourself as you're watching your spouse. When I say kaumaha, something heavy will be lifted and there is nothing you have to do about it right now. How does that feel? can you show up for your loved ones with that sentiment? And do you just want to sit angry? Do you just want to sit in grief? That is okay too. Allow others to do that. They are totally allowed to do that. When we decide to stop figuring out how to change everyone else and how to change the world around us, is when the change inside of us happens. If you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world right now, I invite you to go inside of yourself. Figure out what is that emotion trapped in your own body. And what can you do? What movement can you initiate to let it flow? Let it flow out. Make peace. Maybe you're making peace with your grief. I just want to let that sit for a little bit. I know today was a little bit heavier than most of what I tend to talk about. Figure out what it is you need to remain whole, what your spouse needs, and figure out how to allow it and accept it. And grief and experiencing it in its fullness may be one of those things. Ka'umaha, something heavy will be lifted, equals grief. How magical. So much love, my sweet friends. So much love to you and your family.
If you are finding the concepts I teach in these episodes useful and want more in-depth and personalized support for your relationship, consider this your invitation to join me in creating the most connected and intimate relationship with your spouse that you could dream of. Go to www.medicinemarriageandmoney.com right now and download my 18-page medical marriage survival guide and workbook at no cost to you. I also have a 6-day marriage challenge, which goes over the 6 predictors of divorce at no cost to you. These have been known to decrease fighting, rumination, and grudges between you and your loved one. If you want to take it a step farther, really enhance the joy and connection in the most intimate relationship in your life, sign up for my 8-week Making Marriage Work program today at medicinemarriageandmoney.com. Thanks for leaving us a stellar review, subscribing, and sharing with your friends on social media. You have the power to improve someone else's life and marriage simply by sharing this episode. Much love to you and your spouse. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. Adios, my friends. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or financial advice. The opinions provided on this episode are those of myself or the invited guest alone. They do not represent the opinions of any particular institution. Always seek the advice of your physician or financial advisor with any questions you may have of a medical condition or financial plan. This is for your entertainment only.